Our work covers all sorts of different buildings, from housing to major sports complexes. The Sydney Olympic Stadium is an example. So we work on specific cases of individual projects as well as on general policy issues for government and international organisations. This scheme was chosen as an exemplar of retrofit for the future. Housing associations were asked to suggest projects where upgrading of older buildings would give great results for the tenants in terms of improved comfort, usability and lowering energy use and carbon emissions. One of the important parts of this project was to wrap the house up in a cosy blanket, so there's plenty of insulation in the loft, but also the walls have had external insulation applied to them, which is why it looks like a rendered house rather than seeing the original 1960s brickwork. And also that external insulation continues down below ground level, and the slab itself has a thin layer of an innovative material called aerogel, which provides good insulation even though it doesn't take very much off the floor to ceiling height of those rooms. So this level of insulation and also the replacement of the old windows with brand new multiple planed efficiency glazing cut down the draftiness of the house to a point where we could also install another measure, which is a whole house mechanical ventilation and heat recovery system. There's a good size of roof for the installation both of solar thermal and photovoltaic panels, and these provide 90% of the electricity needs of the house. Cambridge Architectural Research worked closely with Aragon and its tenants to find out what was important to them to enable user behaviour to make a good contribution to the energy efficiency and carbon saving of this project.
We saw a 50% reduction in electricity usage, and then the next year we saw an 80% reduction, which means our energy bills are extremely low. They're now down to about a tenth of what we were paying. It's increased our quality of life, especially now that the light has been improved. The light tube brings in much needed daylight, and in the summer it's like having a 500-watt light bulb in the room. We don't have to worry about the heating. It's set to be a variable 21 degrees all the way around the year. With Aragon, they've given us 50% of the feed-in tariff. It actually wipes out our electricity bills, so we're not really paying for our electricity. Wouldn't want to move again. It would take a bulldozer to get me out.
So this house was built in the 1960s. It needed a lot of work doing to it, but there was a lot of potential there. This contrasts with some other situations, for example, working with historic listed buildings, where we have to take a more contextually sensitive approach.
Melbourne Place is a pedestrian street in central Cambridge, consisting of a row of listed terrace houses built in the mid-19th century. One problem with old buildings is that walls aren't vertical, corners aren't at right angles. There are materials which you can't take away, you've got to work around them. So there are definitely challenges, but also opportunities. My first focus was on improving the insulation of the solid walls. We use laminated insulated plasterboard on top of the existing old plaster. We put in an extra piece of wood so as to make it all continuous. This meant we could leave the existing architraves in place. For the glazed part of the windows, of course we had to leave the existing frames. I found this very slim double glazing, and it uses rare gases which are more efficient than the normal argon. My wife and I had decided that we really liked the idea of underfloor heating. And air source heat pump technology is a good match because the temperature required in the underfloor heating is much lower than with hot water radiators. Which makes it easier for the air source heat pump to provide the heat efficiently. As a result of this project, I've certainly improved my knowledge of how to go about retrofitting old buildings, which is part of the larger pool of expertise of CAR.
Buildings are responsible for about 50% currently of our emissions, and of those, houses take up half. So upgrading the older stock is essential to meeting our carbon targets and moving forward into a carbon constrained world.